I'm not sure Lao Tzu was right when he said, "If you're untrustworthy, people will not trust you." Sometimes it sure seems the world is eager to trust who they shouldn't, and it feels like that's where we are now. Welcome back, and thank you for wanting to know the facts and the truth. What's going on in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is big. You can't miss it on the news. You can't miss it on college campuses, and you really can't miss it online. But what are the facts? Why is this happening? That's what we're here to answer. Our approach is to examine the major themes and focus on the important events that help you make sense of what's happening today. We care about knowing the truth. We also care about the basic human right to live in peace. We care about ending the suffering. We care about finding justice. And we think you're here because you do too. The only path for us then is to go after the facts and be open to what they show us. Life can be beautiful without hatred, violence, and war, and maybe the way there starts with better understanding each other. Better understanding the Jewish people, the Palestinian people, the history of their conflicts and past peace efforts, and some of the major issues standing in the way of forging real peace. What the Hell is Going On in Gaza is a 9-part series made up of 30 episodes, each designed to help you understand a different but important part of the picture. As part 2 of our series continues, our focus stays on answering some basic questions about Hamas. Here in episode 8, we'll provide some facts and history to help answer the question of whether Hamas can be trusted. So let's get going. Well, we're not going to start out tiptoeing around an issue as important as this. Hamas is a terrorist organization, so of course it can't be trusted. This isn't just name-calling. Hamas has been designated a terrorist organization by Argentina, Australia, Canada, Israel, Japan, Paraguay, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, and other countries. Besides that fact that Hamas is a terrorist organization, there are a number of specific reasons worth delving into why Hamas can't be trusted. Number 1 is that Hamas despises Jews and blames them for all the world's problems. The following are excerpts from Article 28 of Hamas's 1988 founding charter. They show Hamas's blatant hatred for Jews. Quote, "With their money, they took control of the world media, news agencies, the press, publishing houses, broadcasting stations, and others. With their money, they stirred revolutions in various parts of the world with the purpose of achieving their interests and reaping the fruit therein. They were behind the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and most of the revolutions we heard and hear about, here and there. With their money, they formed secret societies such as Freemasons, Rotary Clubs, the Lions, and others in different parts of the world for the purpose of sabotaging societies and achieving Zionist interests. With their money, they were able to control imperialistic countries and instigate them to colonize many countries in order to enable them to exploit their resources and spread corruption there. You may speak as much as you want about regional and world wars. They were behind World War I, and they were able to destroy the Islamic Caliphate, making financial gains and controlling resources. They obtained the Balfour Declaration, formed the League of Nations through which they could rule the world. They were behind World War II, through which they made huge financial gains by trading in armaments and paved the way for the establishment of their state. It was they who instigated the replacement of the League of Nations with the United Nations and the Security Council to enable them to rule the world through them. There is no war going on anywhere without having their finger in it. The Zionist invasion is a vicious invasion. It does not refrain from resorting to all methods, using all evil and contemptible ways to achieve its end. It relies greatly on its infiltration and espionage operations on secret organizations it gave rise to, such as the Freemasons, the Rotary and Lions Clubs, and other sabotage groups. All these organizations, whether secret or open, work in the interest of Zionism and according to its instructions. They aim at undermining societies, destroying values, corrupting consciences, deteriorating character, and annihilating Islam. It is behind the drug trade and alcoholism in all its kinds so as to facilitate its control and expansion. Can anyone really hear this and think that this group is open to peaceful coexistence with Jews or Israel? In 2012, the former deputy speaker of the Hamas parliament, Ahmad Bar, said about the Jews, quote, "Kill them all without leaving a single one." In 2017, Hamas revised its original 1988 charter to soften some of its language, like replacing the word Jews with the word Zionists. But clearly that was for political reasons, and the reality was that nothing had changed. These are Hamas's leaders' own words, what they say in public over and over, and all since their 2017 revised charter. In 2018, Hamas's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, said, "We'll take down the border and tear out their hearts from their bodies." In 2019, Hamas official Fatih Ahmad said, quote, "You have Jews everywhere, and we must attack every Jew on the globe by way of slaughter and killing." In 2023, Hamas official Sheikh Hamad al-Rageb said, quote, "Bring annihilation upon the Jews, paralyze them, destroy their entity." Number two is that Hamas took control of Gaza in a bloody coup against Fatah, the political party of the Palestinian Authority. Hamas rules Gaza today as an Islamist authoritarian state, but it didn't start like that. After Israel left Gaza in 2005, Hamas and Fatah split control of Gaza in the 2006 election. The next thing that happened was Hamas slaughtered Fatah to take full control of Gaza, and it has ruled Gaza ever since. Hamas not only overthrew Palestinians' elected government in Gaza, they did so brutally, throwing people off rooftops and executing them in the streets. NBC News reported in an article titled, "Hamas seizes Fatah headquarters in Gaza," quote, "Tuesday's battles marked a turning point, with Hamas moving systematically to seize Fatah positions in what some in the Islamic militant group said would be a decisive phase in the year-long power struggle. The confrontations became increasingly brutal in recent days, with some killed execution style in the streets, others in hospital shootouts or thrown off rooftops." And here's what was reported in the Telegraph in an article titled, "Fatah Crushed as Gaza Becomes Islamist State," from June 2007. Quote, "Hamas has taken over the final Fatah stronghold in Gaza and created what is, in effect, a miniature Islamist state. Israel and its allies have been left to contemplate the emergence of an enemy state, a radical Islamic Hamastan on its Mediterranean coast." Hamas said it had executed a top Fatah collaborator and issued a death list of supporters of Mr. Abbas. Number three is that Hamas uses civilians as human shields. It has been well known and widely reported for years that Hamas purposely placed its headquarters under Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza, hiding behind a human shield of the very vulnerable. The fact that so many denied this in the aftermath of October 7th, including international aid organizations, is just shameful. NGO Monitor reported on this in an article titled, "Denying the Undeniable, NGOs Erase Hamas's Exploitation of Hospitals." Quote, "The evidence is overwhelming and incriminating. Hamas systematically exploited Al-Shifa Hospital and other medical centers in Gaza for command and control centers, terror tunnels, weapons storage, hiding kidnapped hostages, and murdering kidnapped hostages. The newly released videos are disturbing, but they are not surprising. For nearly 15 years, Israeli and American officials have publicly acknowledged the existence of Hamas's headquarters under Al-Shifa Hospital, and the international media has reported on the active presence of Hamas in hospitals, including during rounds of armed conflict. This image from the hospital's CCTV camera shows an Israeli hostage being dragged through the Al-Shifa Hospital lobby on October 7th. Wikipedia includes the following about Hamas's use of human shields. Quote, "According to a paper published by NATO Strategic Communications Center of Excellence, the strategic use of human shields by groups like Hamas hinges on exploiting Israel's aim to minimize civilian casualties and the sensitivity of Western public opinion. This tactic allows Hamas to either accuse Israel of war crimes if civilian casualties occur, or to protect its assets and continue operations if the IDF limits its military response. As well as this, quote, "The Israeli accusations have been supported by NATO, and during the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, EU nations condemned Hamas for using hospitals as human shields, while the UN Secretary General said, quote, Hamas and other militants use civilians as human shields. In 2023, Human Rights Watch stated, quote, Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups need to take all feasible precautions to protect civilians under their control from the effects of attacks and not use civilians as human shields." As just one example of Hamas's strategy, the Jerusalem Post reported on Hamas's firing rockets at Israel from inside a humanitarian shelter. Wikipedia also quotes the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying, quote, "You can see even from the open source reporting that Hamas does use hospitals, along with a lot of other civilian facilities for command and control, for storing weapons, for housing its fighters. This is Hamas's track record, both historically and in this conflict." Number 4 is that Hamas reports false civilian casualty figures. Listen to what Richard Goldberg, senior advisor to the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, had to say about trusting Hamas for facts and statistics. Quote, "Anyone who cites Hamas statistics as fact is knowingly amplifying Hamas's propaganda aimed at pressuring Israel into a ceasefire before Hamas can be destroyed. Hamas lies. It's just what Hamas does. And those lies will become louder and more outrageous as the group's final hours approach." And here's what Enya Krivine, FDD's senior director of its Israel program and national security network, had to say specifically about Hamas's reporting casualty numbers. Quote, "Every civilian casualty in war is a tragedy. Hamas has a long history of inflating civilian casualty numbers to demonize Israel. The same Iran-backed terror organization that denies killing Israeli civilians on October 7th is now controlling and distorting the narrative out of Gaza. There is no independent reporting or reliable data coming out of the enclave." University of Pennsylvania data science professor Abraham Weiner told Tablet magazine that the data reported by the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry is obviously not real. Quote, "To anyone who understands how naturally occurring numbers work." The Tablet article also pointed out that the casualties reported by Hamas were obviously fake because they showed no correlation between women's and children's deaths, when in the real world there always is. The Free Press illustrated Weiner's analysis, showing that Hamas's reported death toll was obviously fake since it claimed that the same number of Palestinians were dying in equal numbers every day, even during ceasefires. Number 5 is that Hamas has always been the aggressor against Israel. Israel tried to walk away from the endless conflict in Gaza and withdrew all of its troops and forcibly removed all Israeli citizens from the territory in 2005. Hamas wouldn't allow that. Hamas had a different plan, so Hamas attacked Israel from Gaza unrelentingly ever since. Terrorist incursions, rocket attacks, even fire balloons. And finally, Hamas attacked Israel from Gaza on October 7th, breaking through the border and savagely attacking Israeli civilians. Number 6 is that you can't make peace with someone who only wants to kill you. Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir understood. She said, quote, "You cannot negotiate peace with someone who has come to kill you." Hamas has made it clear its goal is to destroy Israel. Hamas has always been the aggressor, including on October 7th. Hamas lies about casualty numbers. Hamas uses civilians as human shields. Hamas seized control of Gaza in a violent coup. Hamas despises all Jews. And of course, Hamas is a terrorist organization. So no, Hamas cannot be trusted. Thank you for continuing to watch our series, What the Hell is Going On in Gaza? We hope this episode helped you understand better that Hamas cannot be trusted. If you'd like to leave a comment or get in touch, visit our website at www.coexistence.org. getthefactsmiddleeast.com. There's still a lot more to learn in this series, so we hope you'll keep going. Next up is episode 9, where we'll dig into the question of international aid and what's become of the billions of dollars given to Hamas. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your interest in learning more about the war in Gaza. And remember, where there is no knowledge, there can be no insight.